Hello everyone, my name is Izzy and in 2024 I challenged myself to read 50 books. It's currently July the, 21st I think, mid-July, near the end of July, and I've read 47 out of the 50 and I am going to be talking about my 5-star reads of 2024 so far. In 2023 I had so many more books that were like 5-star reads. I really think anything I've read that's been 5-star this year has been more like series as a whole rather than singular books. So I tend to read thrillers, crime. Like I love a British crime book, especially when it's like a series and you get to know like all of the police officers and everything like that. So my favorite example of that is Cara Hunter. I love her books, her DCI Adam Forley books. So good. If you like crime and you haven't read them, read them. But I feel like most of the ones I tend to give 5 stars to tend to be like romance books, which is so annoying because romance is not a genre I reach for, but it's always the sort of book that gets me out of a reading slump. So that is very much the case with the first book that I rated 5-star in 2024, which was Twisted Love by Anna Huang. I preferred Twisted Hate out of all of the books. I love Twisted Hate, but I only have the physical copy of Twisted Love. I read the rest on Kindle Unlimited, which is just my favourite thing in the whole world. But I do also listen to audiobooks, so some of these might be audiobooks as well, because I literally will switch between any type of platform to read my books. But this is going to be spoilers for the whole Twisted series in this section, so just skip that if you don't want to hear that. To sum it up, it's basically about a girl called Ava and a boy called Alex. Ava's got a brother and Alex is his best friend. And it's kind of like he's the bad boy. She's like a good girl, goes to uni, is like just everything good. Quite a very common female main character trope, I feel like. But yeah, she is an enjoyable female main character, and not to be anti-feminist, but I feel like when a book has a female main character, so much of the time I don't enjoy it. And I don't know if that's just because a lot of books I read are written by male authors and I'm not a big fan of how they're portrayed. So like, for example, The Silent Patient is obviously written by a man about a woman, and I just feel like it's not written very well. It just annoys me. I find it's quite easy for female main characters to have traits that will annoy me, basically, but I didn't find that with Ava. I thought she was enjoyable and not very annoying, and it was kind of my first romance book that was a bit not dark, because it's not dark romance, because there will be some more dark romance books later on, but it is a bit more, it was like my first little taste of dark romance, I'd assume, because it's not a dark romance at all, but like there are small plots in there. But I did prefer Twisted Hate, but I think that's just because I love a good enemies and lovers. Love it, my favorite trope. I don't even know what trope I'd say this book is, because it's very predictable. Not so much the storyline, but more like the relationship between the characters. I feel like in every romance book it's always, oh, they're together, oh, they're not together, they like each other, oh my god, they're together, oh, something's breaking them up, yay, they're back together at the end. But I think what's so good about these is where all 4 of the books, so Twisted Love, I don't know if this is in order, I can't remember, Twisted Love, Twisted Games, Twisted Hate, Twisted Lies, I think that is in order actually, all of the girls in the 4 books are in a friendship group. So like the characters will appear again, and then if anyone's read the Kings of Sin series by Anna Huang, it's the same, where like these characters will constantly pop up. So even though you're not reading about them anymore, you will still hear more about Alex and Ava's relationship as the series goes on, which I really, really like. Another series that has a female main character that, in my opinion, is very likable is the, I don't know what the series is called. Oh, the Chestnut Springs series by Elsie Silver, particularly Heartless, the second book in the series. I read this really recently, like I've not long finished it. I'm only on the 3rd book now, but Willa is the female main character in this, and she basically moves to this ranch, and she's the best friend of the female main character in book 1. So she moves to this ranch to be a nanny, babysitter for one of the brothers in this family. And when she gets there, she's like cocky, funny, very flirty, and it's kind of like, I'd say it's like a play on the grumpy ex-sunshine kind of trope, but she is not just like a big bundle of joy. She's like sarcastic, rude, funny, which really, really reminds me of Jules from Twisted Hate. So if you like that book, I feel like this is the same, just with cowboys, and it's the brother. So, I mean, it's not the brother of the female main character in the first book, but it's the brother of the male main character. So it's actually very similar. And this series is like the same, where all the characters are like, they're all connected. So the male main characters are mainly all brothers or best friends with the brothers. So it's all very connected. This was 5-star for me though, because I feel like this was one I could not put down. And I really liked the first book and I rated that a 4-star. And that was incredible, but there was just something about Cade and Willa in this book. It's like a believable relationship. And the difference in this one and the first book is, as I said, I feel like romance books always go, they like each other, they're together, oh no, something's happened, back together. The first book, it was quite predictable. Whereas in this book, I feel like it was not better circumstances, but it just made more sense for them to have had time apart, and it was a fun trope. And if you don't care about spoilers, she basically gets pregnant, and the whole backstory to Cade, the male main character, is that his ex-girlfriend, ex-wife, I think they refer to her at one point in the book, she traps him by getting pregnant with a son who she just leaves with him, which is the child Luke, which Willa is babysitting for the whole summer. And Cade and Willa have only been seeing each other for 2 months, which is summer, and she's pregnant, and she instantly is just like self-sabotaging, and it's like, oh my god, you're gonna think I've trapped you, blah blah blah. But really interesting. And you know, they get back together well at the end, and I feel like they portray the men Elsie Silver, I feel like she portrays the men in this series. It's quite like old-fashioned, but the way Cade handles the pregnancy, I think, in my opinion, was very nice to read. And I read this on holiday, and I think that just made me like it even more, because it was like, no, I like a lot of dark romance, but I don't want to read dark romance when I'm literally on holiday. Like, I want something light and fluffy, and I feel like that's exactly what this book was. Another book that I rated 5-star was, I read this right at the beginning of the year, so it was like cold, dark outside, candles lit, everything is fun, everything is like cozy, and I felt that's the perfect time to read this book, was Haunting Adeline and also Hunting Adeline. I did read Satan's Affair, which is a novella, which is like I think you're meant to read it before Haunting, and then I also read Where's Molly, which is the novella that comes after Hunting, but they weren't 5-star rated to me, especially Satan's Affair. In my opinion, I really did not like it. I think I rated it 1 star on Goodreads, maybe 2 star, but I think that's just because I'm not like, dark romance is not my favourite genre. I'll dabble a little bit, and then it's nice, but if I'm doing too much of it, I actually think that the books make me so depressed. Like, I'm like, okay, I need something light, fluffy, and happy now. Haunting Adeline, if you haven't read it, again, spoilers, basically is about a girl falling in love with her stalker, and I just think, wow, it's so good, so gripping, actually scary, a bit fucked up, to be honest. Like, it is fucked up, and it is very sexual, so if that's not your cup of tea, I would skip this book. It is fucked up, and I know there's a lot of like controversy around this book, because a lot of people say some of the sexual scenes are a bit more like essay. I don't really have an opinion on that, because I didn't pick up on that when I read the book, to be honest. It was only when I like read other people's, like, if I finish a book, I have to read everyone else's Goodreads review, because I want to know, oh my god, am I weird for liking this? Which you'll see that with one of the books I'll mention in a minute. But Haunting was so good. In my opinion, Haunting was better than Hunting, but I still rated Hunting a 5-star. I still thought it was really good. I think the author clearly did, like H.D. Carlton clearly did a lot of research into some of the topics of this book, like the main triggers, because there are a lot of trigger warnings for both of the books, and she just, in my opinion, did a good amount of research, and I don't think that she did it distastefully, but they're not personal triggers to me, so maybe that's just my own opinion. So that's kind of like a read if you want, but make sure you read the trigger warnings. I think the 2 books probably are not the best place to start if you're just getting into dark romance, because I think if you talk to someone about the plot of a dark romance book, no one's going to think, oh, that sounds good. Everyone's going to think, like, I've read this book in front of my boyfriend, for example, and he'll be like, what the fuck are you reading? That is disgusting. But if you read it, you're so in it, you don't even notice that it's gross, because you're just so like, you're obsessed with the storyline. This was a book that left me like thinking about it for weeks, and everyone I know who's read it, they've also rated it 5-star. I do really think it was really good, personally. Sticking on the more dark romancy books, my favourite book of this year, I think, and this is a little bit controversial, is Credence by Penelope Douglas. I read this one on Kindle Unlimited as well. Very taboo. It sounds disgusting. I don't think I even really want to go into the main plot, but there was just something about it. It really gave me like Twilight, New Moon vibes, the way she describes the surroundings, because it's set like maybe like a mountains kind of. It's set in a very rural area, and she describes it so good, you literally feel like you're living in it, but it is a bit fucked up. So this is maybe one, like, I know a couple of people that have read this book and even they like dark romance and they're just a bit like, this one was not for me. It went quite viral on TikTok, I think, because people were talking about the fact that it was taboo, because it's not technically incest, but that is the gist. It's not weird. It's not weird, I promise. Well, it is weird, but there's no blood relation, and I think that in my head made me think, oh, it's okay, it's okay. I wouldn't personally do it, but in the book it's okay. The main tropes of this book, I would say, is reverse harem, I don't know how you say that, which is genuinely something I really do not like in a book. That was exactly why I rated Satan's Affair by H.D. Carlton, the first book in the Haunting Hunting series. That's exactly why I rated that a 2-star, because it was reverse harem, and I really didn't like it. But in this book, it's more of like a love triangle, love square almost, and there's also like a hint of like age gap, but not, well, in my opinion, not disgusting, but I'm pretty sure the female main character actually might be 17 when the book begins, which does make it even more taboo. I have a couple of friends that have read this book, and all of us were rooting for a different male character, which I think is really nice, because it's like, there was never a single character in the book that I would have been annoyed at if the main character ended up with, but I was rooting for a separate one to my friends. And there's also like Grumpy X Sunshine in this, because one of the main characters is very much the epitome of that trope, and I feel like so is the female main character. But it's one of those books where no matter what anyone says, I do just feel like everyone should read. Even if you hate it, everyone should read it, because Penelope Douglas writes so well. Even with the most boring storylines, like I've read a few books of hers and I haven't liked the storyline. So Punk 57, if anyone has read that book, I'm not a very big fan. That's a 3-star read for me, but the way she's written it makes it still enjoyable even if you don't like the storyline, and that is exactly what I look for in an author. I haven't actually rated that many books 5-star on Goodreads this year, because I feel like after reading Credence, I kind of hit a wall where nothing was like exciting me as much as that book did. I tried to find books similar to that and they ended up being so much more dark, so disgusting in my opinion, just not my sort of book. No shaming here. If that's what you like, that's what you like, but for me it's a no. But one book that did, which got me out of, as I said, when I've read like a big dark romance book, I kind of normally go into like a reading slump and I just find it really hard to pick up anything else. But I go with a fluffy romance and I just feel like it gets me out of it. It just cheers me up a bit. And that was Icebreaker by Hannah Grace, which, again, I feel like this is quite controversial. Anyone I speak to either absolutely loves this book or fucking hates it. And I really enjoyed it. It made me, I think the reason I rated this 5-star is because it made me like a new genre of romance, which was sports romance. So like after reading this, I read Bloodstream by Emily Carter. The Elsie Silver books, I feel like have a little bit of sport, they're kind of sports romance in my opinion. I don't know if everyone else would say the same, but it was really interesting, and it was really nice to have like a female main character who was a bit annoying. In my opinion, she was a little bit annoying, but it was really nice to have like a strong-willed female main character who wasn't just like, yeah, no, I'm gonna give everything up for a relationship. And it was nice to have a male main character that, like, where it's like he likes her more, and I think that was really done well in these books. And I think the only downside to these books in my opinion is I think the plot is a little bit more young adult, but there's so many sexual scenes in the book it couldn't be. So I feel like so much of that could have been taken out, and this book would have been able to be enjoyed by like so many more people, so many younger people, but it is definitely not appropriate for that. And I saw this book in the young adult section of my Waterstones, and I thought, there is an 18 plus content on this book. Who is buying this for their child? I really hope you're not. But it was very good. And Wildfire I liked as well. I wouldn't say it was 5 stars just because I didn't enjoy it as much as Icebreaker, because it wasn't very sporty. And the main character, the female main character in Wildfire, seemed very much like so many other female main characters I've read about. And I like look for something different, like, which is exactly why I like Heartless. Couldn't remember if it was Heartless or Hopeless. Heartless, I love Willa in that book so much because I just feel like she's a bit different from any other characters we've seen before. Although I did say she's quite similar to Jules, but they're different. They're not just your average romance book main character, which is what Ava in Twisted Love reminds me of a bit. But I feel like it's okay because the storyline makes up for it. But yeah, my last 5-star read of 2024 so far is literally all of the Magnolia Parks universe books. I did not expect to like them because when I first picked them up, it was after I've been reading a lot of thrillers, a lot of crime books, a lot of dark romance, and it's not a romance book where it's the same plot that I was talking about before, being together, getting apart, being back together. It's not that, and I think that's what I really liked about them. I prefer the Daisy Hates books over the Magnolia books, and I do find Magnolia a very, very frustrating. I don't like her. She's the main character of the entire universe. Even in the Daisy Hates books, there's so much about Magnolia, but she just annoys me so much. And so I think that's why it's a 5-star read for me, because to have the main character be so fucking annoying and frustrating and still make the books where you cannot put them down and they're so enjoyable, I just think is so impressive. And I just feel like it is Gossip Girl but British, and it's perfect. And I love a book where the side characters are just as interesting as the main characters, which is why I like Icebreaker, because there's a lot of characters in that are just as interesting. And the Elsie Silver books, to be fair, the side characters really interesting, but the Magnolia one, the only issue with them is that it leaves me wanting so much more that the author, Jessa Hastings, has literally said she will not be giving. Like, why have I not got a book about Jonah? Give me his POV. Give me Julian and Magnolia right fucking now, Jessa Hastings, or it's on site. But I'm very excited for the next Magnolia book to come out. Well, the next Daisy Hates book to come out, because she's obviously done with Magnolia. And the ending is frustrating, but still a 5-star read. They are the only books I've read this year that I have rated 5-star. I'm only, as I said, literally July, and I've read 47. My current reads at the moment, I'm reading Reckless in the Elsie Silver series, that I know I'm reading that and I'm like, this is not going to be a 5-star. I'm bored. I'm having to force myself to pick it back up, which is really annoying because the second book was literally a 5-star read and I was expecting them to just get better, but I'm not a fan of this one. But hopefully I'll get through it and then I'll enjoy the one after that, I hope. And then I'm also listening to an audiobook of As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson, which is the third book in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, which is young adult, and if it wasn't, I genuinely feel like it would be a 5-star read for me, but not this book. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder would probably be a 5-star read, or maybe even the second one, Good Girl Bad Blood, because they are really interesting. The storyline's so well thought out, so many good twists, but it's just so young, and like listening to the audiobook it's just very frustrating. I'm aiming to get I really hope I'll get another 50 books done by the end of the year, because I'm obviously at nearly 50 now and I'm just over halfway through. So if I really pick up my speed at reading, and I'm normally listening to an audiobook and reading a book at the same time, not physically at the same time, but I've normally got 2 books in my currently reading in one go. So I'm really hoping I can make it to 50, and I'm hoping there are more 5-star reads in there, because when I'm going through a long line of books and none of them are standing out to me, it's just a bit boring. And there were so many books I was so excited to read because I just was like, oh, I know this is going to be a 5-star read. Like, I just know it, because I am a bit of I follow the crowd. I do really follow the crowd. If enough people recommend a book to me, I will read it. But that's exactly what happened to me with The Silent Patient, and that fell so flat for me, in my opinion. I think it's so boring. The only interesting part of the book is the last 10%. It's so boring. But I don't actually know what is on my to be read at the moment. I don't know what I'm going to read next, but I'm really hoping I get some 5-star reads, because it's been a bit of a boring reading year in my opinion. I feel like last year I had so many good 5-star reads and I've just had not so many now. So I'm really hoping I'll be back in 6 months saying I've had 20 new 5-star reads. But for now, that is all of them. So thank you for watching, and yeah, please subscribe. Bye.